And welcome everybody to day 5 of our virtual British Science Week live question and answer sessions. So today, as Maddie said, is all about health and sports science. And I'm really pleased to be joined today by 3 people from BT and 2 people from Mudo. So they are Ruth Brown, Claire Doyle and Anwar Tukmanoff from BT, and then Wes Pooley and James Brown from Mudo. So as Maddie said, if you've got any questions, if you click on the chat, the Q&A or the chat button and pop them in there and we'll get around to them. While you're thinking about those, I'm just going to give all of our panelists a chance to briefly introduce themselves to tell them a bit more about who they are and what they do. So Ruth, would you like to go first?
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Ruth. So I work in BT's Applied Research. So my job is about looking at future mobile networks and also trying to understand about what we need to know to make sure we have the best future network possible for our new services. So at the moment, we're looking at 5G, which is really, really exciting, and we hope to share a bit more with you about that today. In terms of how did I get into this role, probably through work experience. So when I was 16, I did work experience with BT, and that really interested me in technology.
Lovely, thanks Ruth. Claire, can you introduce yourself please?
Hi, I'm Claire. I also work in applied research, so I work in Ruth's team, and I've been here about 6 months now, so I can probably very easy remember how I got into BT. So I did a 4-year master's in general engineering at Oxford, and so off the back of that got into BT. And I heard about BT through an internship. So I did that the summer before I graduated, and I worked in dynamic IT, which is another area of BT. And now, so I work in the same team as Ruth, and I've got sort of a focus on 5G, but I'm also looking at stuff to do with network automation. So that just sort of means trying to speed up processes and save the company money. And that means I get to look at really exciting things like AI and machine learning. So that's me.
Lovely, thanks Claire. And Anwar?
Hello everyone, I'm Anwar. I work in applied research, the same big team as Ruth and Claire. I work in wireless research in particular. My job is trying to understand how base stations work and how to make them work better. In particular, providing more speeds to your mobiles, letting the base station reach more people. How I got to BT? Well, I joined BT as a graduate following my PhD at Newcastle University. I'm at BT for 7 years. It's been an exciting journey so far. So I'm really pleased to be on this panel. Hope share some experience with you.
Lovely, thanks Anwar. And Wes, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, of course. Thanks very much for having me. My name's Wes Pooley. I'm an ex-international professional rugby player. I've then gone into kind of education and teaching and done a master's in learning and education. I then ended up working at international level and professional level as a strength and conditioning coach. So I was very fortunate to work in rugby and football in the Premiership. And I am the performance director for Mudo Health, where I get to work with key partners, our ambassadors, which are global. So we have over 500 ambassadors, athletes in across the world.
Lovely, thanks Wes. And finally, James.
Afternoon, everyone. Yeah, my background is quite similar to Mr. Pooley's. I'm an ex-rugby player. Unfortunately, got injured at 19, so I had to retire early. Luckily, I was doing my sports science degree at the time, and then I moved into nutrition and dietetics after that. I've worked with, similar to Wes, a whole array of different athletes from different sports, from Formula One to international rugby. Then I moved into the realm of genomics and genetics back in 2010 when 2 of my younger cousins sadly passed away from cystic fibrosis. So I took a bit of an interest into DNA and genetics. And now we're here with part of Mudo.
Lovely. Well, thanks everyone. Just a quick reminder to get your questions in through the Q&A in the chat. So I've got a first question that's come in here, and it's for the guys at Mudo. Do you guys use AI in any of your analysis? And if so, how do you use it?
Okay, I'll give this one a go. So without giving all of our secrets away, the way that we calculate your DNA results is done through an extremely complex series of algorithms, which analyze groups of genes and which have been studied by thousands of scientists and universities around the world. Now, once the algorithm's finished analyzing your genetic data, then it calculates your score through a whole variety of different areas, so whether that be muscle power, muscle strength, and as to whether you'll break down the proteins and carbs and fats in your food. Then once we get your genetic data, then we combine this with your environmental, and then we provide you recommendations to improve that subsequent area. So yes, to AI to a certain degree.
Lovely, thank you very much. And next question that's come in, I'm gonna ask to Ruth. Ruth, are there 5G ambulances already anywhere in the world?
Okay, so at the moment, the 5G ambulance was a trial, so it was a bit of a demo that we put together working with Ericsson, King's College London, and also another partner called Voices. So we've initially sort of done a proof of concept, which means we try out the idea, we have a look at it, speak to people in the field. So in conjunction with sort of South Central Ambulance Services and also University Hospital in Birmingham, we've had a look at it there, and we've tried it with real paramedics in the film, which is also part of the video on the website. You'll be able to see, sort of show some of the people from there too. But at the moment, we're just in the early stages.
Brilliant, thanks Ruth. And I think this question is probably one for you, Anvar. Would the 5G ambulance work over 4G? And if it wouldn't, why wouldn't it?
Well, it would work on 4G. So although the services and range of things it can do will be limited. So for example, it will still get a fast connection, but it won't be able to support low latency or things that depend on low latency, such as haptics, for example. And probably video quality wouldn't be as good as it would be on 5G. So yes, it will work on 4G, but not as good as on 5G.
Brilliant, thank you. And another one here, I think this is either for Ruth or Claire, is how strong is the signal that goes to the gloves? If it isn't strong enough, is there a chance that the paramedic might not be able to feel how they should move their hands around, especially maybe if they were in a stressful situation? So
Claire, if I hold up the glove, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I was going to say probably a question for Ruth, given she's got the glove on her. But so the glove works through Bluetooth, so it should be able to kind of work up to kind of 5 meters, sort of distance round. I might just stop talking because I'm not sure if Ruth pops up on the screen if I'm talking.
Can everyone see the glove?
So obviously there's
Yeah, we can all see the glove, Ruth. Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. But yeah, so obviously there's stuff that's still testing. So obviously I'm sure there are kinks that will kind of work out in the future, but at the moment it should kind of be strong enough that they'll be able to feel. And because it's got sort of a 5 meter range, that really shouldn't be an issue. But yes.
Also, it's probably worth saying, so the glove, the vibrations that you feel in this glove. So I've got one of these at home just because we're at home, working home at the moment, just to trial out some stuff here. But you get pulses down each of the fingers that I'm just pointing to, and it's quite buzzy. It's probably similar sort of experience to when you put your mobile phone on vibrate, that kind of vibration buzziness. And you can also, within the software for this glove, you can sort of turn up or down the intensity. So there would be some sort of changes a paramedic could make potentially.
Excellent, thank you. I don't know if it's just my imagination, but it looks like it's a really big glove when you hold it up. Do they come in different sizes?
A man size glove, or someone with big hands. It's certainly, I've got quite small hands.
Brilliant, thank you. Next question that's coming is another one for the Mudo guys. For athletes, how much does training and working hard how much can that overcome what's in your genes?
Wesley, you can give this one a go, or I can jump on board. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, training to a certain degree is really important. You can overcome your genetics through having different areas, because we're not looking at just one area. When you're looking at genetics, you're looking at how they all work together. So knowing a different type of exercise and different type of training will allow your body to progress over time, and don't want to overtrain either. So understanding your genes will allow you to train to a certain degree without overcoming it. I'm sure James will want to add something to that in a more scientific term.
Well, there's not too scientific. There's probably a saying that we've probably all heard before: is hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So we can apply the same sort of things. Having genetic gifts to a certain degree, you find a lot of athletes that are very genetically blessed are a little bit lazy sometimes, and normally get overtaken with people with a bit more of a work ethic. And working hard, as Wes alluded to, working hard is one thing, but you need to train intelligently. and that means working smarter and training smarter. So you need to get a lot of rest in, the right types of rest, right types of food, and not having lots of junk food.
Very good advice, I think. Very good advice, whether you're an athlete or not there. Thanks, guys. Another one on remote healthcare now. So when we're talking about remote healthcare, how possible is it that in the future we might have a doctor's consultation with a robot?
Who would you like to answer that one?
I was going to say, is that one for you, Ruth, or one for Claire, perhaps?
Yeah, so I'm happy to answer it. So yeah, I mean, we've seen, especially at the moment with the whole COVID situation, trying to stay safe and be remote is like really important in terms of people's safety. So in the future, I think there's loads of applications. I mean, not only have you got remote ambulances and paramedics, but perhaps remote healthcare could be used in the future in things such as war zones or countries that are quite remote. You've got sort of some rural sites as well, where you might have specialist experts that are in the central cities, but the remote sites are a really long distance away, and either financially, so because of the cost of sending someone there or the time, it's better to try and use these remote techniques.
Brilliant. And a follow-on question, I think this one could be for you, Ruth, or it could possibly be for Claire as well, is the glove uncomfortable or heavy at all because of the technology inside it?
So there's a little bit of weight. I'm trying to think what's equivalent. So mainly, if you can see the camera, there's this just this sort of so I'm trying to align it. There's a big kind of a patch here, so it adds a little bit of weight, I'd say, but it's not massively heavy, so it's not probably a big burden for a paramedic to hold or wear for a bit of time.
Brilliant, thank you. I think the next question, I think, is probably one for you, Anvar. It's how might we use 5G in future smart cities? So we had a smart cities Q&A on Tuesday, so perhaps this is someone who's been in that Q&A and wants to know a bit more.
Well, I haven't been in that Q&A, unfortunately, but I can probably talk about some of the use cases that you could use 5G in particularly smart cities. So one is transportation. So we would probably want the autonomous vehicles to be able to communicate either to infrastructure or between themselves. So while you could do some things over 4G network, and there are exciting things you can actually do, but to get additional technologies enabled, additional features enabled, you would probably need 5G communication systems. For example, 4G, when deployed on vehicles, allows to exchange basic telemetry between cars, but 5G extends that to being able to share far greater detail. For example, data from cameras that might be installed in different vehicles could be exchanged between vehicles, so that a car which is behind, let's say, a truck, can understand that there is something happening which it can't see itself. So transportation is one. Utilities is another hot area in both 4G and being extended in 5G. So being able to communicate efficiently with electric meters, gas meters, street lights, various things that require low power, that have a low power source, or they have to be economical, have to work for years and years without anything changed to them. So these are the two key areas that probably you will see in particularly smart cities, or starting from smart cities and then propagating to closer to ourselves as well.
Brilliant, thanks, Anvar. And my next question is another one for you, James and Wes, and it is: can anyone have one of these tests done, and how do you collect the information? What sort of tests do you do?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, anyone can have a DNA test. You don't have to be an athlete to just have a test. So there, as I alluded to, there are a whole variety of things you can learn about yourself following a test, such as how to improve your sleep, how to reduce your stress levels, or maybe you've got issues with your eyes, or which foods to eat. So there's a whole array of different areas that we look at. DNA tests pricing range, I mean, the range from £119 to £199. You can go on the website and have a little look on there. We've got 15% off for the rest of the month. What sort of things that we look at? So The two types of tests that we basically offer through a saliva sample. So you're basically just spitting in a tube. It's not very glamorous, I know. The first test is called DNA Health. From there, we can look at lots of genetic areas, as I alluded to, in relation to sleep, exercise, how to absorb your vitamins, how to improve your skin. The second test that we offer is called DNA Transform. Pretty much exactly the same, all the same things that I've just mentioned, but then we move on a step with a branch of science called epigenetics. And what that simplistically means is how your genes are functioning and behaving. And we can see how your biological age compares to your chronological age and see what actual age rate your cells are moving at. So they're basically the two areas that we look at.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, and another one, which I think it's probably for Ruth, Claire and Anvar, or all of you, or possibly one of you. Could 5G be used to improve the pandemic response? Are there any ways we could use 5G to help?
In terms of healthcare, do you think that question means, or?
It doesn't say anymore, so I guess yes, potentially in terms of healthcare, yes.
Yeah, so I think we sort of spoke about it earlier. You can use a lot of the techniques within the ambulance would keep people safer, and allow you to use equipment probably in smaller environments, where obviously we're quite conscious about social distancing at the moment, and not probably mixing together different age groups, especially around sort of older people or people who've been shielding. So I think this could be quite helpful. Claire, I don't know if you want to add a bit now.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I was going to add is that kind of with this equipment, one of the things that we've just been recently discussing is the fact that we could kind of add sort of a layer that's very easy to clean, so that then kind of if it's being transferred between the people using it, then there's less chance of it actually kind of transferring COVID, which is obviously kind of a concern. And I think I completely agree with Ruth that anything that can allow us to kind of remain socially distanced and sort of save us from making unnecessary trips is really important. So one of the things about the kind of connected ambulance is that we hope that it would let you, whilst you're in the ambulance, decide, okay, I need to see the specialist and it's only at this hospital. So that sort of stops. So say if the patient had COVID, for example, and they got taken to one hospital, but then that was the wrong one and that wasn't where the specialist was, and they then had to be moved to hospital, that's just unnecessary chances where COVID could be transferred. Whereas because if we got that right straight away because of a connection ambulance, this is kind of a really great way that we could cut that down.
Brilliant. Thank you. So the next question I'm going to ask all of the panelists, and it's a question we've asked all of our panelists all week. What's the best thing about your job? I'm going to start with James.
Working with Wes every day. I guess, I mean, with relations to nutrition and helping people to improve their health, we come across hundreds of people that we've helped over the best part of the last 3 years. So just hearing those case studies more than anything else. Sorry, Wes.
The second best thing is obviously working with Wes.
No, it's way down the order.
Way down the list. Oh no, so I'm dreading now asking Wes, what's the best thing about your job?
I'll reply differently to James, don't worry. Yes, like James said, to be able to work with so many different varieties of different people across the globe is exceptionally brilliant. We all like helping people, and anything we can do for them to understand their bodies better, so they can make really small habit changes that then can stay with them for their lives. Because it's great giving people a lot of knowledge, but if they don't know what to do with it, then that's not very constructive. So what we aim to do is give people understanding behind what they can do, give them little action points that they can change over time, and that is what I really enjoy about my job.
Brilliant, fantastic. Ruth, the same question for you.
Yeah, so probably the best thing about my job, I'd say, is building some of these use cases and demos. So I've had a lot of kind of amazing experiences and being able to try out drones over 5G and build demos for that, and also looking at the connected ambulance. But I also really enjoy these sort of speaking events and talking to schools and kind of careers events, and trying to kind of reflect and encourage people that I suppose science and technology can be fun. I mean, sometimes things like maths and physics when you're at school can seem a little bit boring, but you know, if you can see sort of the longer picture, you can see what kind of cool technology you can get into.
Brilliant, thanks, Ruth. Anvar, how about you?
Well, I would probably just continue what Ruth finished with, and one of the best parts of my job is actually being able to eventually apply what I learned in school and university to something tangible. I can remember a few years back sitting on those lectures, and well, it's complicated stuff, but right now I actually wish I had another go, because I can now I already have things which actually require that knowledge. So, for example, one of the best things I've been involved with is launching of 5G in the UK. So, yeah, in applied research, we were the first ones to have pre-standard trials of 5G technology, and that involved putting base stations on masts and having some specialized kit to measure the signals, to make sure that the signal is good enough for people to use. So it was an exciting activity to be part of, and you get to learn from so many people, so many brilliant engineers from around the world, how things work, and being able to understand that. Like if you don't understand something from at first, then you most likely find somebody who's been doing that for quite a while, and then you have like a click and you understand something you didn't understand before with the knowledge, and that lets you actually get that final piece of information of the puzzle. And the second thing I would say that's good about my role is actually being able to travel a lot, because I'm also contributing to global standards on 5G, and we have meetings around the world, and you get to see places you wouldn't normally go yourself. It's because either it's not a tourist destination, or it's too far, but you get to go there and you get to see different cultures, how people live, and what do they eat, and you get to be part of this global community of engineers. It's quite exciting. I probably finished here, Carol, so I think we lost Carol. So Claire, would you like to talk about it?
Yeah, in case we lost Carol, I guess I'm probably not going to say anything that exciting, given it will be the exact same as what quite a lot of people have already said. But I really love getting to work with such new technology. I think it's really exciting to be able to be working on stuff that people don't even know about yet, and some of the things you get to sign NDAs for, which can be quite exciting when you feel like you're one of the few people knowing about it. But also being able to see sort of trying to find new use cases for stuff. It's quite exciting to think about, for example, with our connected ambulance, that we don't even know all the use cases that will come out of it, which is really great to kind of be part of that. And I guess to kind of extend it in a different direction, sort of second best bit about my job is when I was growing up and I was at school, that was whenever I heard about engineering, I got speeches and talks from men, and it's just really, really nice to get the opportunity to be part of panels like this, to kind of get to speak back to young girls who are actually interested in engineering and show them that it's not all just a male-dominated industry, and there are loads of really interesting and incredibly intelligent women who are really inspiring and great to work with. So I guess I've basically said I like working with Ruth, so I've outdone James and Wes on that front.
The good news, my network has come back. Hello again, and apologies everybody for that, and thanks Shane for jumping in. Have you all answered that question now? I'm guessing that I left with Anvar speaking and came back with Claire, so I'm going to move on to the next question, and that is about the legal implications. What are the legal implications of the connected ambulance? What would happen if, say, a doctor says the patient is fine, but it turns out that they're not? Can you say anything about that? I'm going to give that one to Ruth.
Okay, so I suppose as researchers, we've not really looked into the legal implications around, I suppose, if there was some sort of problem or an issue, who would the liability lie with? Would it be the paramedic? Would it be the doctor? Or perhaps would it be the service provider? But I guess if you're going to start commercializing this and rolling it out into NHS trusts, at this stage, we'd obviously hand over to people who are used to sort of looking into this environment, and it's probably a case of the healthcare trusts and some sort of regulation around this, so they can do both training and also decide on what the policy and I suppose the liability would be in a situation such as that.
Lovely, thank you. Thank you. And then I've got another question here for James and Wes, and this is quite a specific one. And it says, how does your system work with people who have, kind of extreme diets? Like it mentions Ed Hall, Tom Stoltman, and Andrea Thompson. In these cases, is there a special process for getting the right diet plan for them?
Okay, so that's it's a really interesting question. All of our algorithms take into account your DNA, your goal, and a few other lifestyle questions, so that we get a better understanding of actually what makes you unique, then what sport or exercise you're doing, and then we calculate and give you the results off the back of that. So Eddie Hall is an example. Been working with Eddie for the best part of 4 years now. Now working with a gentleman that's the best part of 200 kilos, 6'3", and can pick up 500 kilos. Isn't the average person walking down the streets, so some of the recommendations have to be tailored slightly, but all recommendations within our app are tailored to you, your goal, and then a few other questions, so it's adaptable to everybody.
Brilliant, thank you. And another question actually for you and Wes, and that is, have you ever discovered a genetic disease or disorder that the client hadn't known about previously, or have you discovered new genetic diseases or disorders that hadn't been found before anywhere?
Okay, so we don't look at disease specifically, such as cancer, but as I mentioned earlier, we do look at specific areas such as skin health and eye health, and then subsequent topics within that area. Now, we had an email probably back in October, I think it was, from a gentleman over in Malaysia, who after his Moody test he had an increased risk of developing glaucoma. Now, glaucoma is basically a condition that damages the optic nerve within the eye, and you gradually start losing your sight. It's not something that normally troubles people in their younger years. It normally develop it after the age of 50, 60. He was 36. He had an increased risk, so he popped and had an eye test and presented everyone with his results. They'd never seen a genetic test for diagnosis of glaucoma before, so they're a little bit fascinated with it. They actually ran his test, and he actually didn't have glaucoma, but then they ran him through a slightly more sophisticated machine, and they could actually detect very early onset glaucoma, and they were fascinated. And now they've put interventions into place to hopefully mitigate or dilute that from happening. So it allows you to, it's like a crystal ball in many ways. But just because you have a genetic predisposition to something, it doesn't mean you've got 100% of it actually coming into fruition, because most things are an epigenetic response to their lifestyle induced. You might have a higher propensity to developing something, but if you don't switch that pathway on with a certain type of lifestyle, diet, lack of exercise and poor sleep, you won't ever go down that path.
Brilliant, thank you. So I've got another question that's come in about skills or courses that people might follow to help them go in a particular direction. So I'm going to ask you all that question again. So James and Wes, are there any particular kinds of courses or skill that people could take, or skills they could develop that would help them have a career in the field that you guys are working in?
Yeah, so from my standpoint, nutritional genomics is obviously coming into the forefront now. When I did my degree many moons ago now, it was quite difficult to find somewhere to do it, but it's fairly easy to find now. So I'd highly recommend, if you want to get into nutrition, it doesn't have to be from an athletic standpoint, just holistic health and a normal dietitian work. The nutritional genomics is definitely the route to go.
Brilliant. And the same question to I'm going to start with Claire. Claire, what sorts of skills do you think or courses will help to get into the field that you're in now?
I guess for me, I'd probably just say it's really great if you get the opportunity to learn a coding language. I think a lot of schools now offer that chance, and also there's a lot of really great resources online. I taught myself Python using YouTube, and that was completely free. And so I think that's really enabled my job. One thing I would say is that a lot of people tend to stress over which language to learn, because obviously people use a lot of different ones in their companies. And so I learned one language called MATLAB at university, and it's not something I use at work at all, and I had to learn Python, but I'd actually say that because I knew MATLAB already, Python was a lot easier to learn. It is very kind of similar, the process. So I wouldn't stress too much about which one you choose, but I think just knowing one can actually really help with your job and also make you seem really employable.
Brilliant. Thanks, Claire. And Anvar, what would your advice be?
My advice would be to try and focus on physics, actually, but not purely on formulas, but trying to understand how things are interrelated. So I can give you an example that when I was studying physics at school, I had three books on various areas of physics, and I probably recall just a few formulas there. So it was all about how you understand the system, whether you can actually feel how what if scenarios, if I do this, that would be affected, and how it would be affected, kind of trying to understand it more and be able to apply. But also, second, I think my key advice would be to try and, if you are interested in engineering, try things out, try building something, try coding something, because that's the way you actually learn most, and that's where you get most experience from. So do things really from me.
Brilliant. Thanks, Anvar. Finally, Ruth.
Yeah, so probably echoing what everyone said on the panel here. So I suppose, especially talking about sort of Claire, Anvar and I, we've all come in as graduates. So we all had degrees, I suppose, when we entered BT, and they were all probably sort of engineering type degrees, engineering subjects. However, I think it's also useful to sort of point out or kind of encourage people that that's not the only route. We've got a lot of people coming in at 18 now, doing sort of a technical apprenticeship. Generally, they're coming in with some sort of STEM skills, so science, engineering, maths type skills. And they're then doing part-time, so they're working, getting experience within the team, but they're also studying for their degree at the same time. If you are going the traditional route, I think I mentioned it in my intro, work experience, and I'd say in any discipline or any kind of field is really, really important. And I see that as one of the key things almost, because you can either decide, yes, this is absolutely the career for me, or it might actually rule out something you thought was going to be absolutely brilliant. Perhaps you do a little bit of work experience and it's not for you. And just as a final point, the other thing that I found really useful in my entire career, probably at BT, has been sort of team working. That has been really important, especially for building these sort of demos. Most of the time we're working as a team, we're perhaps working directly with colleagues within our direct team, but sometimes we're working with people across the business. And it's really useful to be able to work together with a group of people, but also sometimes you're not always doing that leadership role. Sometimes you've got to do just some sort of role to pitch in and make it work. So I see that as quite an important skill to develop.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ruth. And Wes, finally to you as well.
Yeah, I kind of answer it kind of two different ways. One would be is through my life, to get to where I've got to today, I've taken every opportunity that I can and try and work in lots of different areas, and not necessarily kind of pigeonhole yourself into one specific area, but also to go out and do kind of work experience, as Ruth alluded to, go and work in different areas and try and experience different things, because qualifications are great to have, but they're not necessary that you have to have something to be able to be good at something. So it's always good to go out and find what you enjoy, to then look forward to kind of moving into a certain area. Within Moodoo, obviously we are a genetic profiling company, but we do have lots of people that work for us in lots of different ways. So kind of when you look at the industry, it doesn't necessarily mean because you're a geneticist you've got to have a genetic qualification, because I don't have one. So I've got performance, James is nutrition and nutrigenetics, we've got marketing, we've got IT, we've got scientists, we've got finance, and there's lots of other roles that we have within our team. So if something interests you, it's always, there might be another way of going into that team and adding value to that team in different ways, but always look at the opportunities available, and you can try something, and if you didn't enjoy it, then that's fine, but at least you could say you tried to do it, and then you know whether you enjoyed it or not.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, guys. And just to kind of plug on the Virtual British Science Week website, you can have a look at lots of career profiles that we've got of different people working in very different kinds of roles in all of the different areas that we've covered this week. So have a look at those and have a look at the different routes they've taken into their careers. I've got another question for you two, James and Wes, again. And can epigenetics help with being better at other things in life? So not just sport, but maybe being better at your job or other things in your life?
Yes, of course. I mean, it's being healthy. It's a multifaceted, really. Being healthy in whatever your job, sports, just in life in general. If you've got poor health, then you won't be as proficient in whatever career path you're in. So understanding your DNA and understanding, to a certain degree, your epigenome, how the genes are functioning, is obviously extremely important to all of us.
Brilliant, thank you. Thank you. And I've got another question, also for you guys, which is, could the use of some of the technologies help, and shown in the video, help people move from being not very good at sport actually up to athlete level?
Let Wes answer that one. He wasn't very too good at sport, I don't think. So.
Yes, I mean, as James just said, is the idea is you get an idea of what your base level is, the cards you've been dealt for your genetics, and then you can manipulate them to help you perform at a better level, whether it's in a corporate world or whether it's in an athletic world. So yes, you can obviously understanding your vitamin mineral deficiencies or how you should train or how you need to recover or what you need to eat is only going to enhance your ability to perform. And we kind of say, if we're working with athletes and we're helping them improve by 5% in the general population, the increases in performance, whether it's corporate or athletic, could be even bigger. So yes, we can, obviously it would definitely help to understand yourself better. Then you know what you can do to make those changes rather than kind of playing a guessing game about what I should be doing. It's going to give you that information.
You're on mute, Carol.
I've managed all week without losing my network connection or talking on mute. So it's obviously the curse of Friday. Sorry, everybody. So I've got one more question here, which is for the people, for Ruth and Claire, I think, which is, could we see the use of the kinds of technology that's been used in the connected ambulance being used in people's homes, maybe for helping to care for people or to do things like physiotherapy exercises?
Claire, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. Absolutely. I mean, there are many applications for remote healthcare and health assessment in future, and basically in general, research is kind of at the point where we're trying to find different use cases. So definitely we'd want to be able to use it at home. For example, we could use it for kind of detecting someone's heartbeat through radio is one kind of really interesting way. But yeah, no, I would 100% say we'd be able to use it at home. That's definitely one. And if Ruth has anything she wants to add.
Probably just like Claire says, I think there's a lot of probably growing interest around kind of health monitoring, and obviously why we've got this panel today. I mean, a lot of people have already got their wearables, they've got their smartwatches, and probably with these kind of connected diagnostic equipment, you're just going a step further. But I guess we've also got to think about the context of where we'd use them. So, I mean, I love stuff like, Apple Watches and fitness trackers of wearing an Apple Watch. Oh, we're wearing an Apple Watch today. But I also think I wouldn't be keen, probably in just general members of the public all rolling out. They've all got scanners and stuff at home, because I think sometimes this can grow and cause anxiety levels. This is just a personal opinion. So I think we probably want to ensure that we're using the equipment in the right way and around the right use case. And I suppose as researchers, we are trying to sort of shape and sort of think through technology and perhaps ideas around use cases that will be useful in this context. And obviously, we're looking across the industry, we're sort of taking opinions from a lot of people on this.
I've done it again. Having said I've not done it all week, I've done it again. Sorry, everyone. I've got another question here that's for James and Wes, and that is, how many athletes and how many different types of athletes do you support through your company?
can take this one, Mr. Pooley.
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, because we're a global company, we've got lots of different athletes across a very wide range of sports, from basketball, NFL, rugby, football, gymnastics, swimming, horse riding, snooker, darts, all these different sports, and also be looking into, you know, your fitness, your powerlifting, your power training, your CrossFit. So we work with a wide variety of athletes across the whole globe. You're on mute again, Carol.
It's just not my day today. So we're coming up to only a few minutes to go. So if there are any last minute questions, please do get them in. Just while you're thinking of any last minute questions, just to say the content on the Virtual British Science Week site content is not going away at the end of British Science Week. It's going to be still there, so you can go back in, have a look at some of the things maybe you haven't had a chance to look at, and or rewatch some of the things that you already have and you really enjoyed. And also just to say, don't forget there's lots of have a go activities. Anvar mentioned earlier how important it was to have a go at things and experiment. So there are some great experiments today to test your reaction times and how to build the perfect athlete as well, I think, if that's something that interests you. So got time for one more question. Oh, there are lots to choose from. What am I going to pick? Goodness me. There are so many good questions from the audience today. I was going to pick one last question, so I hope it's got a fairly short answer because we haven't got much time left. I think it's probably one for you, Ruth. How much extra training does there need to be for the paramedics and doctors who use the 5G connected ambulance?
So when we did the trial and the paramedics and doctor, and we were talking to them in Birmingham, they were obviously, it's a demo device and they're using it sort of straight away and talking to each other, but I imagine there would be some sort of training to ensure people were familiar with the equipment in the ambulance, how to pick up a kind of a voice call, because we've got a voice call going, and headsets. So I don't know the exact length in time, but I'd imagine there's probably, you know, healthcare trusts would want some familiarization on this.
Brilliant, that's wonderful. Thank you very much, Ruth. So I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. If you've got any more questions that we haven't had a chance to answer, please email them to us, stemexpert@bt.com. The email address is on the Virtual British Science Week website. We hope you've enjoyed all of the content that we've produced for you. As I say, it's not going anywhere, and we hope you've enjoyed all of the Q&A sessions we've had this week. Just want to say a huge thank you to Claire, to Ruth, to Anvar, to Wes, and to James for answering your questions today. Thank you for sending them in. And also a big thank you to West Suffolk College and STEMtastic, who've hosted these Q&As for us all week. So we hope you have a good weekend and keep checking the content out, and we hope you're all going to be inspired now to have a career in STEM in the future.